It's as clear as mud. Famous last words and other sayings in real estate. All right, this is the real story with Adam and Sherry. I'm Adam Hamalian,
I'm Sherry Hutchens.
and this is where two real estate brokers in central Contra Costa County talk about all things real estate. Hi, Sherry. How you doing?
Hey, Adam, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Uh, if I'm honest with our audience, I'm a little anxious because we've had two of our podcast recordings just up and disappear on us.
Yes.
So it's been a few weeks since we actually had something to share. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, everybody, if you're getting this, that means it worked.
Yes, and it's good it's a podcast because I keep looking at the record button to
Yeah.
make sure it's still on.
It's also good that it's a podcast and not Smellorama because I was trying to do some stuff with Febreze earlier and take the lid off and I accidentally squirted my shirt. And my shirt and my undershirt are both soaked with regular scented Febreze. So if I start tearing
Yikes.
up here and my pores are, my membranes are leaking, that's what's going on.
So I love Febreze. I buy it, by the truckload practically. I use it on all kinds of listings. And of course, we have one coming up that definitely needed some Febreze treatment. We've been kind of over there every day spraying and treating and things like that. But you said you sprayed it on your shirt. I think you poured it on your shirt.
Well, yeah, that's what it felt like. Yes,
I
it
said,
was it was a close-up shot. It got me good.
uh-huh, yeah, I smelled you before I saw you.
Yeah, exactly. From around the corner. Yeah, I was worried I was going to get pulled over for a Febreze DUI. Like it was so heavy, so
Those
heavy in my car.
Febreze commercials were so effective in the
Yeah,
beginning when they first came out, and they had people blindfolded sitting in the middle of a living room that had piles of garbage everywhere and they couldn't smell anything. That is effective advertising.
yeah, yeah.
So,
All right, no smellorama. Uh,
all right, that's a good thing. So,
yeah,
we've got listings galore.
yeah. So for the longest time, everyone who's been paying attention to our podcast, we've been talking about a shortage of inventory. And the only thing that kept prices really stabilized was that buyers were being picky. Interest rates were kind of keeping buyers, while there were a lot of lookers, there was keeping buyers from being over anxious to write things. And so
Mhm.
it kind of balanced itself out. But we've seen a little shift as spring market has started, don't you think?
Yeah. I think we started out with what, 8 listings? We sold a couple, and now we might be getting close to that again. And
Yeah,
they're kind of all over the map as well.
yeah. We have two on the market officially. We have three
Mhm.
that are going to hit the market in the next 2 weeks, and
Mhm.
then a sixth one that is probably not too long after that. So we're running around trying to keep our wits about us as we go to all these different conversations. And for the most part, they all are different. There's a couple in
Great.
Rossmore that are kind of overlapping same market space, but everything from a multi-million dollar estate in Orinda to probably the least expensive single family home in Pleasant Hill and all sorts of other interesting things that we get to work with.
Yeah, the Orinda one was interesting yesterday because we had inspections and BPOs, which is broker price opinion. That's when we bring in agents to give us their opinion. And we'll talk more about that in a minute because Orinda is hard to price homes. The comps are very difficult over there. And 2 owners and 2 agents, and the bunny went somewhere else. Rufus the bunny. I'm not sure where Rufus went, but he was not present. But
Yeah.
we had a home inspector, we had a pest inspector, we had a sewer lateral inspector, and then we had 4 different agents come by for tours. And I was doing tours of the house, and then the seller would take them through the half-acre garden, which is absolutely gorgeous, with the most stunning views. So, and we got it all done in about 4 hours, which is,
Yeah.
it was like managing a 3-week ring circus.
Yes, our clients. It's overwhelming to have people in your home period, but
Yeah.
when they're poking and prodding everything, it can be overwhelming for
Yeah.
sellers. So they held up pretty well. I think that they were
Yeah.
ready for us to be done yesterday so they could recoup. But uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You
one
know,
of them is going on a 2 week or a 10-day retreat, starting sometime next week. And it's like, I think everybody involved is going to need a retreat
yeah,
after this one.
I know, right? Well, I'm up
There's
for that.
our retreat.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so you mentioned Orinda. So there's uh, been inventory showing up all over the place.
Yeah.
Two places that are notable right now are Rossmore. We've been averaging there about 60 homes on the market at any given moment. We're up to 90. And so that's Rossmore is a conversation by itself. So just put that back on the shelf. But
Let's
Orinda,
explain what Rossmore is for people who might be outside the area. It's a 55 plus senior community, gated. It's in the Walnut Creek city limits, but it has its own community. It's about 5,700 homes, I
yep,
think.
yeah.
So there, yeah.
And it has all price points. So from the least expensive home there might be 225 to
Mhm.
up to I think there was a $3 million sale in there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't there's a lot of options there. And anyway, it's unique. But Orinda has its own unique story currently, which is what makes us pricing it even more important. And that Orinda is a city in the East Bay Hills. A lot of the original homes were places where families were escaping San Francisco for vacations, and they were vacation cottages. And then you had some bigger estates that were built from the
Mhm.
original ranchero that was subdivided out. And
Mhm.
then over the years, there's been a lot of spec homes built, as opposed to there are some neighborhoods that were built out at the same time, but the vast majority of them were built one-offs,
Yeah.
which makes it really interesting when it comes to trying to find a comparable sale because most of the homes don't have something similar that is on the market. So,
Yeah, no developments over there, multi-home developments over there, no cookie cutter houses.
yeah.
They're all different.
Yeah, I think there's like the Ivy Drive area. There's a few streets there that were built out at the same time,
Yeah, maybe that's, yeah.
and but even like Wilder, which is a new development, they originally were going to be built out at the same time, but the it happened at the downturn, and so it just kind of went flat. And then people started buying individual lots and building their own homes. So even in Wilder, which had the potential to have a developer, even that ended up being that way.
Yeah.
The it's a hilly place. It's in the East Bay Hills.
On the other side of Berkeley and Oakland Hills.
Yeah, and there's no grid of streets. They're all kind of windy, and it is because of that and all the trees that have developed over the years. It is a high fire risk, and anyone that's been paying attention to California real estate, you know that fire zones and high fire zones are the red letter of the day. And so a lot of insurance companies are canceling their standard policies in Orinda for being too high risk, and homeowners are having to revert to getting the California Fair Plan. And we're not going to jump into that. If you want to know more about that, look back a couple episodes to when we had Ray Baddock on
Yeah.
from Griffin. He explained all about that. So, but it's a less than ideal situation to get the California Fair Plan, and the cost is more expensive. And so we're seeing a lot of people in Orinda selling because of this. In fact, our client is one of those.
Yeah. Tired of dealing with the insurance companies. And they're like, we're done here.
Yes.
Live in the city and live in a high rise and have a doorman and not have to worry about insurance.
Yeah. And so for like one of the things that is a struggle, and it's not applicable to our client, but the California Fair Plan requires you to have a roof that's less than 25 years old. And our client's roof is 24 years old, so they just make it. Um, but it's a 45-year roof. It was built and designed, and after our home inspection yesterday, we know it's still in good condition. That it's designed to last for another 20 years,
Yeah.
maybe 20 years plus.
Yeah.
And it seems to our client outrageous that the fair plan would require them to replace it, even though it has 20 years left on it. Just one of the complicating factors.
Yeah. I don't know if you've taken a good look at that roof. I'm sure you probably have, but it is a work of art.
Oh, yes,
It was
absolutely.
installed and the color is perfect for the house and it's got copper gutters. It is It is gorgeous.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's that the house is really an amazing thing.
Yeah.
But that is one of the challenges in Orinda right now is A, trying to find a comparable sales so you have a sense of what your house might be worth.
Mhm.
We don't really know until it hits the market and what buyers think about it, but we're sharpening our pencil and doing all our work and helping our clients price it correctly before it hits the market. But the
Yeah.
insurance thing is so it hurts twice. It hurts once with it's harder to get insurance, and then two, it's caused this glut of inventory, which might be suppressing the market. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. Homes are selling in Orinda. It's not that they're not. There just happens to be more things on the market.
Yeah, there are a few homes that are getting multiple offers and selling in 7 to 10 days, and not all of them, but a few special homes, and we hope to be one of them.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the episodes that we recorded and lost, we're going to try and recreate here a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about broker strategy for marketing a home. And we have a general underlying belief, we think it's sound wisdom, that the more people that your home is exposed to, the the more likely you're going to get the best price possible, sales price for your home.
Absolutely.
It's not that complicated. You just never know, will that one buyer be out there that was, not looking in this direction, but you would draw their attention over like, oh yeah, I actually really like that house. And we work with buyers occasionally that the house that they're looking for wasn't in their original search, and then it pops up slightly on the fringes, and like, oh, well, I'm willing to go that extra half mile for that house or whatever it might
Yes.
be. So we have a philosophy that is supported by some of the industry, that we want to market the house to as broad of an audience as possible, which is why we use the multiple listing service that pushes those out to Zillow and Redfin and Realtor.com, where all of the likely buyers are looking, rather than just holding it to people that we know or just within our brokerage.
Yep. Yep.
Do you want to talk about clear cooperation? Because let me not tell you what it is. Do you want to talk about it?
Yes, I think clear cooperation has been around for a few years, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think the history is that there were some brokerages that were holding back listings, and only exposing them to their own brokerages, correct?
Right.
And so we would see things, other agents outside of this particular brokerage would see things come on the market marked pending or already sold. And they didn't, the property wasn't exposed to the whole market. So we didn't get a chance to show it to potential clients because it just was never uh, allowed. We were never allowed to do that.
Yeah.
So NAR came up with what they called clear cooperation, where all brokerages share their listings. Yeah, you want to elaborate on that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think you're doing a good job. There's a term that you all may have heard called pocket listing.
Yep.
And part of their NAR and the local MLS rules have wanted to minimize agents utilizing pocket listings
Mhm.
in a way that doesn't represent their clients well. So a pocket listing is when a agent signs a listing agreement with a seller and that they hold it just for themselves to try and double end it or market it to a smaller sphere of potential buyers. Now,
Yeah,
there,
another thing I think for pocket listing, I mean, going back to the times when we actually had pocket listings, somebody would stand up at a sales meeting and say, I just took a listing. It's this size, this price. My client doesn't want people traipsing through their house and they would love to sell off market. If you have somebody that you think is a match for this, please let me know.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say there is a legitimate use of the pocket listing, and that is if the seller really doesn't want their privacy violated. Um, and
And the
so
seller should have that right.
that absolutely, absolutely. I think that the challenge is, um, and part of this clear cooperation policy was basically making sure or doing the best that can be done to make sure agents are adequately talking to their sellers about the value of marketing it to the widest range of people
Mhm.
and the downsides of that sort of limited showing. And of course, it's always one of the seller's right to market it however they want it marketed.
Yeah.
But the rules were established to keep agents, and this is where everybody is going to groan and why real estate agents have a bad reputation. And in some cases, it's rightfully a bad reputation
Yep.
of agents not explaining that to their clients, keeping the listing so that they might be able to double end the transaction, meaning that they would represent both the buyer and the seller and make a higher commission. And Sherry and I think that this is ethically fraught. We very, very rarely double end a transaction, and it's usually only after a buyer and a seller have come to some agreement. And they're just asking us to be the paper pushers to go back and forth.
For
Uh,
both sides. We
for
represent
bo-
both sides.
Right, right. Because when we sign a listing with a seller, we, all agents, say that they're going to represent that seller's best interests. And how can you do that and then sign a buying client and telling them the same thing? You can't represent both parties and say, I have your best interest at heart to both people because they're actually, for portions of the contract, competing with each other. Once
Yeah.
the contract is solidified, it's a little bit different because then you're just leaning into helping both sides live into the contract. But any sort of negotiation about price or terms or conditions or credit for a repair, you can't represent both people. It's just mathematically impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. I've
The
done it. It's difficult.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's a rare occasion that we do it, and
Yeah.
if we do, we do it with starting with the seller side permission
Mhm.
before we approach before re-engage the buyer. We don't approach buyers. It's only if the buyer came to us.
Yeah.
So part of this clear cooperation rules that came into play requires us as listing agents to put the any listing that we sign on the multiple listing service, at least as a coming soon, within 24 hours of signing that listing agreement.
Mhm.
And our regular practice is to have our sellers direct us not to do it that quickly until we're ready. But our intention is always to put it on the MLS. So
Yep.
so for instance, if we're they're helping us, if we're helping them prep the house and get ready and staging and photography, we don't want to put on the MLS till we've done all that pre-work
Yeah.
with the seller's obvious full knowledge.
Yeah.
Um, the other kind of part of that is that we have to, within 24 hours of actively marketing it outside of our brokerage, because the listing agreement technically is with the broker, not with the agent. It's the agent as part of the brokerage.
Right.
And so anybody in the brokerage could know about it appropriately. So, but once you start marketing outside of the broker to other brokerages to the general public, put a sign up, a social media post,
Yep.
you call your friend up who works for another agent or another brokerage and say you have it. That's marketing it to the public, and we're required as agents to put that on the multiple listing service so all brokerages can see it if you're going to do it that way.
Yep.
And we've started to see some movement on this particular aspect of the clear cooperation policy, in that it's interesting because some of the national changes we're already doing here in California, that we already have this status within the MLS system of a coming soon listing so that only agents across our MLS can see it. It's not put out to the public.
Or to the it's not syndicated to people like Redfin and Zillow either.
Right, right. That it's only available for brokerages to see it. Um, and there's some cloudy areas here because Redfin and Zillow are at moments trying to act like brokerages
Mhm.
and would want to be able to use those listings and put them out there. But that's part of where the negotiation of what's proper based on what the seller's intent is and their agent. But they're giving us a little bit more leeway to do those coming soons rather than have to market it to the public straight away. And there's one particular brokerage who this is part of their business model
Mhm.
to try and just market the property on their own websites. And they're not public websites, they're just for their private clients.
Yeah.
And so they're using it do two things. They're trying to convince sellers that, hey, look, we have this private inventory that wouldn't you like to be a part of? And two, hey, buyers, come sign up with us, and we have all of these listings that you can't see anywhere else.
Mhm.
And their hope is that they're going to capture those buyers, whether it's for that transaction or another one, but they're basically manipulating the public for their own purpose.
And not doing cooperation with other brokers, which is what our code of ethics says we're supposed to do.
Yeah. So just to be clear, I mean, I'm not I mean, am I always anxious about my next paycheck? I'm a human being. Yes, I'm always anxious about my next paycheck. Um, but the point I think I'm less anxious about, is it fair to other brokers? No, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
We live in a capitalist society. You provide a great service and people will come hire you. I'm not worried about that part of it.
Yeah.
What I am worried about is in this new environment where buyers are now required to sign a buyer broker agreement with an agent, and so they sign up with agent A at broker A, but they are told by broker B, if you sign up on our website, we'll show you this hidden inventory. So they go do that and they see the property. They can't use the agent that they've signed with at broker A. They can only use the broker B, at least for that short amount of
If
time.
they want access to that house, a
Yeah.
house. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're making it difficult for buyers. I think difficult for sellers too, just because one brokerage is trying to monopolize the system.
Yeah.
And this is why, again, why the public doesn't like real estate agents and feels like we're not
Playing games.
honest. Yeah, we're playing
Yeah,
games. We're
we're
making
playing
it.
games. I think that, if that brokerage wants to practice that model, I don't know how they're getting away with it, but it works when there's not enough inventory. Um, but look, like there's no houses out there. You're not going to find anything unless you come to our, sign up and come to our website. But all of a sudden, we've got a lot of inventory.
Yeah,
There's choices out there.
yeah.
So
I think
we're
it's
not,
bad. Yeah, yes, I think that's true that buyers have choices on, and that why make an obstacle for them to see it.
yeah,
Um, well, why is because they're trying to get more business.
our business. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's bad for, just to complete the thought, I think it's bad for both buyers and sellers. I think it's bad for the seller because it's not being exposed to the widest audience
Mhm.
possible.
Yeah.
So that's where we started with, and it's regardless of whether we can see it or not, it's how many buyers out there are able to see it, and if it's limited to just buyers who have signed up with this particular brokerage, that's a mistake. Because right
Mhm.
now I'm not sure what their market share is in our area. I think it might be as high as 30%. That means you're missing out on 70% of the buyers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And why would you do that? That's on the seller side. And on the buyer side, it doesn't serve them well because they're being told they have to sign with one agent, and that's what this brokerage is trying to do. So sign with us, you could see everything, but if you sign with the other guy, you only get to see 70% of what's on the market.
Mhm.
And that's manipulating the buyer because the buyer may not want to work with the agents at that brokerage, right? That's the whole point of the being able to go interview who's the person that you feel most trustworthy, it's going to be most knowledgeable, that's going to help you do it, and it's limiting access, for the broker's gain, not for the seller's gain and not for the buyer's gain.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but I mean, this is kind of history repeating itself to a certain degree. Many, many years ago, there was a certain brokerage that did a lot of business in Rossmore. They had probably the largest market share. And I got my real estate license. I went to, yeah, there was no online getting your license when I got
Mhm.
my license. I had to go to school in a classroom with a teacher.
Oh my goodness.
I took my test. I know, right? Little
Yeah.
house on the prairie, walking all the way to school. Anyway, no,
Did the beads on your abacus almost fall off?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
you get me. You really get me. But there was a woman in there who ended up going to work for a woman who sat next to me and we became friends while we were getting our license. And she ended up going to work for this broker. And over dinner one night, after we'd been in the business for a while, she told me that it was just the coolest thing because this broker would say to sellers, our normal commission is 6%, but if you let us keep the listing inside our brokerage and let one of our brokers sell it, we'll give you a discount down to 5%.
Mm,
And who's not going to say yes to a
yep.
discount?
Yep. Yeah.
And I don't think it works that way anymore over there. Maybe it does, but that's creating a dual agency.
Yeah.
You've got two agents from the same brokerage selling a house, dual agency and a discount.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how things happen in the real world, but there needs to be some repercussions, right? I mean,
Yeah.
aren't we supposed to follow the rules? Who's making us follow the rules?
Yeah.
Well, I know who's making us follow the rules at Dudum.
Well, our own ethical guidelines, right? I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we'll follow the rules that are, required of us beyond our ethics, but
Yeah.
it's just not, it doesn't represent the client, the
Yeah.
buyers and the sellers very well.
Yeah.
Well, um,
So moving forward, what's going to happen with clear cooperation? Is it here
the
to stay?
So yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that it needs some tweaking because we acknowledged earlier the one legitimate is a buyer who might have some privacy issues. They don't want to sign in front. They don't want everybody knowing that their house is for sale, but they
Yeah.
want to sell it.
Yeah.
And so just finding ways to make that happen is at their within their guidelines. So the current the way it's on our current MLS board is listed as a coming soon, but I think they're going to change the name of that to match a new policy that came out from the National Association of Realtors about 3 weeks ago.
Mhm.
And I forget what it was, but it was like delayed active marketing or something like that.
Something like
So
that.
it sounds a whole lot like coming soon. And when the MLS board representative spoke at the realtor meeting explaining it, he goes, "It's basically the coming soon." Like they were digging deep to try and find is there actually anything different, or were they using the same words to say the
Yeah.
different words to use the same thing? So, one of the just another reason why this California's Association of Realtors is the best in the country and leading the industry on best practices. And some of that has to do with just the sheer volume of homes in California. Some of it has to do with we're a litigious state. Some of it has to do with we're a disclosure state where you've got a legal obligation to disclose things as a seller. But either way, I think that there's more clarity here, and we're kind of ahead of the game. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, bad actors in other places have an effect on how we do our business here.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say that we, as a team, and including everybody in our brokerage, we try to do what's right, and that is put the interests of the client first.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the only fun in it, really. I mean,
Yeah.
um, paychecks are paychecks. We could get it a whole different ways, but when you really make a difference in somebody's life, whether it's buying or selling a home, the non-monetary rewards are off the chart. Uh,
Yeah.
whether it's first-time
Absolutely.
home buyers or helping people retire,
Yeah.
or downsizers, like there's such it affects everybody's life. It's such a big part of their financial portfolio, but also just their everyday lives. So
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yep.
All right. Any other thoughts about inventory or sales or marketing or brokerages or
Well, to give us a, kind of a place and time when people are listening to this, we just went through a week of stock market roller coaster due to tariffs. And then all of a sudden the tariffs are on hold for a while. And so it'll be interesting to see the effect that it has on our market, if any. So
yeah. Yeah. I had mentally blocked that out for this whole time.
I
Yes.
know, so right here I am reminding you of it. But there's never no 2 days are the same in real estate.
Yep.
The slightest little thing affects the market and buyers and sellers and their confidence and their willingness to buy something and how much they pay for it. And so um Yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's definitely too early to know for sure its ramifications because it's so volatile. And
Yeah.
I think that one thing for sure in the Rossmore market, as that 55 plus community, if there's a segment of the population that is more cautious when things are volatile, it's that buyer and seller.
Mhm.
And so I think that's reflective of some of that increase in inventory.
Yeah.
The there's a regular supply of homes in Rossmore for natural reasons, and but the buyers seem to have stalled out. Nobody's rushing to move there at this moment,
Nope.
or I
Nope.
should say, there's fewer people rushing to move there.
Yeah.
There are still buyers there.
And if you want any indication that it's best to expose a listing to the entire market, I got a call this morning from an agent at the broker that we talked about a little while ago that wants to keep all their listings in-house. And we were scheduled to show one of their listings tomorrow that actually did come on the market onto the MLS. And they let us know that they were receiving an offer. It probably wasn't going to be available. And so we canceled that appointment and we're going to show our client something else. But I got a call this morning and they said, we thought we were getting an offer. In fact, we thought we are getting two offers. But it turns out we're not getting those offers. Both buyers changed their minds. So could you please still show it? So expose your listings to all agents. We have buyers. It's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think that's it for our conversation this week. One of the podcasts that we are trying to re-record that got lost is about reverse mortgages with Martha Eckel. So we're hoping to get her back on the calendar maybe next week. Going to
Okay.
confirm her availability. So if you're interested in that, particularly in Rossmore, but not just in Rossmore, and if you like this
Really
podcast,
interesting topic.
yes, it was very interesting. It's very different than what you may have memories of. There's been a whole
Yeah.
change overhaul in the industry in that product. So,
Yeah. Looking forward to that.
yeah, if you found this at all interesting, be sure to like and subscribe and refer to your friends. That's it for now. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.